The Vikings did not believe the ocean was empty. They believed something was already wrapped around the world. Not swimming through it, not hunting inside it, holding it. Jormungandr, the World Serpent, a being so enormous that Norse mythology claimed its body circled the earth beneath the oceans, biting its own tail in the darkness. But the terrifying part is not that ancient people imagined a monster. The terrifying part is why they needed one. Because Jormungandr was never really about a serpent. It was about scale. The moment humanity looked at the ocean and realized something unbearable, this was not a place humans controlled. This was a force large enough to make humans irrelevant. Ancient Norse sailors crossed some of the most violent waters on Earth. Cold northern seas, black Atlantic storms, winter darkness that could swallow the horizon for days. To them, the ocean was not just dangerous. The sea did not feel empty to them. It felt occupied, not alive like an animal, alive like a presence, a force that moved beneath them, around them, and against them. A force with no walls, no borders, no mercy. And when a ship vanished, the ocean gave nothing back. No ruins, no bodies, no explanation. Just disappearance. That is the kind of world Jormungandr came from. A world where the sea could erase people so completely that imagination became the only way to explain what had happened. Because ancient sailors were not foolish. They were observant. They knew the ocean changed moods faster than any battlefield. A calm surface could become a killing field within minutes. Waves could rise like moving cliffs. Wind could tear through sails. Wooden ships could vanish into black water without leaving a single trace behind. And beneath all of it was the worst part. No one knew what was below. Every sound under the hull mattered. Every movement beneath the waves mattered. Every shadow below the surface could become something. A reef, a whale, a current, or something older, something larger, something waiting. That uncertainty is where monsters are born. Not from stupidity, from pressure, from isolation, from staring into a darkness that does not answer back. And the Norse gave that darkness a shape. Jormungandr. According to the myth, Odin cast the serpent into the sea while it was still young, but beneath the waters surrounding Midgard, it continued to grow. Longer, heavier, older, until eventually it became so vast that its body wrapped around the entire world. And then it did something deeply unnatural. It bit its own tail. That image matters. Because this was not just a monster hiding in the ocean. It was the ocean becoming a boundary, a living circle around human existence. Inside the circle was the known world. Outside it was chaos, and the serpent was the line between them. That is why Jormungandr feels different from other sea monsters. The Kraken attacks ships. Leviathan threatens kingdoms. Sea dragons guard forbidden waters. But Jormungandr does not need to hunt. It does not need to chase. It is already everywhere. That is what makes it worse. A predator can be escaped. A storm can be survived. But a boundary cannot be fought. And the Vikings understood boundaries better than most civilizations. They lived at the edge of ice, sea, hunger, and violence. Their world was not soft. It was built around survival. A bad harvest could kill. A failed voyage could destroy a family. A storm could end a bloodline. So when they imagined the ocean hiding something colossal beneath the surface, they were not inventing random fantasy. They were translating fear into scale. because the human brain struggles with infinity. It needs a shape, it needs a body, it needs teeth. And so the endless ocean became a serpent. But this idea was not unique to the Norse. Across the ancient world, civilizations kept imagining enormous beings in deep water. Leviathan, Tiamat, Apophis, the Kraken, world serpents, sea dragons, cosmic monsters, and abyssal gods appear again and again across cultures that never shared the same language, land, or religion. That repetition is not an accident. It reveals something buried deep in the human mind. When people stare at deep water long enough, they begin to imagine hidden scale, something below the surface, something too large to see all at once, something that makes the visible world feel incomplete. And modern science did not destroy that fear. It made it more uncomfortable. Because the ocean really does hide giants. Blue whales exist. Animals larger than aircraft move through water almost silently. Giant squid exist. Colossal squid exist. Creatures with eyes the size of dinner plates evolved in darkness beneath Antarctic waters. Sperm whales dive into black depths and return with scars from battles humans almost never witness. For most of history, people told stories about giant sea creatures. Then science proved some of them were real. Not the myths exactly, but the possibility behind them. That matters, because myth does not always preserve literal truth. Sometimes it preserves emotional truth. And the emotional truth of Jormungandr is simple. There are forces beneath the world that humans do not fully understand, and some of them are too large to matter to us personally. That may be the deepest horror of the ocean. It does not hate humanity. It does not stalk humanity. It does not even notice humanity. A ship can sink. A crew can vanish. A coastline can be destroyed. And the sea remains exactly what it was before. Moving, breathing, indifferent. This is why Jormungandr was not just a creature in a story. It was a symbol of nature at a size beyond negotiation. And the Norse prophecy made that symbol even darker. Because Jormungandr was not supposed to sleep forever. In Ragnarok, the end of the world, the serpent releases its tail. The circle breaks, the boundary opens, and when it rises from the sea, the world begins to collapse. The oceans surge, the sky darkens, storms consume the horizon. The serpent moves onto land, poisoning the air and bringing destruction with it. This is not just a monster attack, it is the failure of the system. The thing holding chaos outside the world suddenly moves, and once it moves, civilization cannot continue. That is the real terror. Not that Jormungandr kills, but that its movement means the world itself has become unstable. The Norse did not imagine apocalypse as a random explosion. They imagined it as nature breaking containment. The sea crossing its boundary, the hidden thing becoming visible, the deep rising up. And that idea still works, because humanity still lives on boundaries. We build cities beside oceans. We build ports beside storm paths. We build trade routes across water we cannot control. Modern civilization depends on the sea more than most people realize. Food, shipping, energy, communication cables, naval power, global trade. The ocean is not outside civilization. It is underneath it. And that should make people uncomfortable, because even now with satellites, sonar, submarines, and global mapping systems, the ocean remains one of the least understood environments on Earth. More than 80% of the ocean has not been mapped in high detail. The deepest trenches remain alien to human life. Sunlight disappears. Pressure becomes crushing. Sound behaves strangely. Time feels different, and entire ecosystems survive in darkness without any connection to the world above. That is not fantasy. That is Earth. A planet where humanity built cities, religions, empires, and machines on the surface, while most of the deep remained unseen. Think about that. Human beings reached space before fully knowing their own oceans. We mapped the moon more confidently than parts of the seafloor. And that realization changes the way ancient sea myths feel. Because the fear was never only about monsters, it was about humiliation, the humiliation of scale, the realization that the world is not designed around human understanding, that there are places on Earth where our intelligence, weapons, languages, and empires mean almost nothing. The ocean is one of those places, and Jormungandr gave that realization a body. A serpent so large it could not be seen whole. A creature so vast it became confused with the world itself. A monster that did not live in the ocean. A monster that made the ocean feel intentional. That is the key. The Vikings were not afraid of a giant snake the way someone fears a wolf in the forest. They were afraid of what the serpent implied, that beneath the waves, reality might be larger than human beings were meant to comprehend. That the ocean was not empty space, that the horizon was not an ending, that the world could be surrounded by something ancient, silent, and alive. And the most disturbing part is how natural that belief feels. Stand beside the North Atlantic during a violent storm. Watch the water rise and fold over itself. Listen to the wind erase every human sound. Look at the horizon disappear into gray. For a moment, the modern world becomes thin. Satellites do not matter. Maps do not matter. Science does not make the waves smaller. And suddenly, it becomes easy to understand why ancient sailors imagined something enormous moving beneath them. Because the ocean does not need to reveal a monster to feel monstrous. Its size is enough, its depth is enough, its silence is enough. And that may be why Jormungandr survived for centuries. Not because people truly needed a serpent beneath the sea, but because they needed a way to speak about the fear that the sea creates. A fear older than ships, older than maps, older than civilization. The fear that beneath the surface of the world there are forces so vast that human life becomes almost invisible beside them. Jormungandr was never just the world serpent. It was the shape of that fear. A circle around human certainty, a warning that the known world is smaller than we think. And beyond that circle, something waits. Not because it hates us, not because it wants us, but because it was always there. Older than our stories, larger than our gods, and patient enough to be mistaken for the ocean itself.